So like all good things in Photoshop, retouching an image is also often a multi-step process. So once you feel comfortable with working with the retouching tools such as the healing brush and the patch tool and the spot healing brush, and making sure, of course, that all of these retouches are done on their own layer, here's the next step. In this image here, which I have on Blackboard so you can download it and do the practice too, I've put all of my retouching onto its own layer, and I've retouched everything. I got rid of all of her age lines. So if I turn that off, you can see what the original image looked like. Now if I retouch everything like that, she looks a little bit distorted. It looks too false. She starts to look plastic. So what I'm going to do is lower the opacity on that layer. And that's going to kind of depend how far you're going to lower it on the kind of retouching you did. But in my case, if I lower it down to about 45%, that's a little bit more natural looking. So this is the way the image looked originally. And here, the technique, what I've done is I've just softened the lines. I don't want to make her look like she's made out of plastic. I just want to soften them. So maybe I'll go up to 60%. So that was the original, and here it is at 60%. So it starts to look a little bit more natural. So it's a good technique if you want to make those natural looking retouches. Now I'm going to show you another step just to kind of, if you are interested in doing some fast retouching for faces. This is going to, I'm going to have to merge my layers to be able to do this. So I do have them separate right now, and that's the way I want them ideally, is because it's non-destructive. But for this example, I will merge them. So I'm going to go up to Layer and choose Flatten Image, or I could choose Merge Visible, because I only have two layers and they're both visible. And they're now one layer. I'm going to duplicate this layer. I can do that by right-clicking. I can also take that layer and drag it into the icon for the create a new layer, and it made a copy of it. What I'm going to do is to put a filter on it. Go up to Filter from the main menu, Blur, a Gaussian blur. So I'm going to blur the entire image. And this is a technique for fast retouching when you want to just kind of make the whole face look a little bit softer. And I'm not going to blur it too much, maybe a radius of about between 1.5 and 2, something like that. And what I'm looking for is to see that the pores and maybe the flyaways, hairs, and things like that are a little bit retouched. So I'm going to click OK. But now you're thinking, all right, the face is softer, but it's also blurry. So the next step is to take our eraser tool, and I'm going to erase back parts to show the original image underneath that is in focus. But if I take my eraser and I erase it 100%, it's going to look like her eyes are cut out. So I'm going to go up to the options bar, and where it says opacity, bring it down to about 75%. And make your brush about the size of her eye, and start erasing. So to make an image look like it's in focus, I need the eyes to show up, the eyebrows, the tip of the nose, and the lips. And sometimes you might want to do the chin as well. You just sort of depending if that part of the image was in focus to start with. And now it looks a lot more natural. If I had erased it 100%, you would just see this cut out. So you could continue, you could lower your opacity down to even more if you wanted to extend, if you feel like her eyes still look like they're popping out, and just erase a little bit around outside where you erased previously. And if you feel like any part is still blurry, which I don't really think so, but then you could go up to 100% and just make a small indent, maybe just like at the very tips, and so those are now 100% erased. If I turn off that background image, you can kind of see what I've done. Now this is a fast technique, and it does use a lot of destructive editing, so I don't really recommend it for all the time, but it's just a technique, since we're talking about photo retouching and how to retouch portraits, that I think would be useful for you to know for the future.